Hi everyone, my name is Nick, and today we're going to talk about the most overrated houseplants. I am such a huge advocate for underrated houseplants. I use every chance I can here on my channel to talk about plants that are not blown out of proportion on Instagram. So that's exactly what we are going to talk about today. We are going to throw some shade that is very much deserved on some plants that I quite frankly do not understand. So something has happened, of course, in the last year with coronavirus. Everybody's at home, everyone and their mother are growing houseplants, and because of this huge influx of houseplant enthusiasts, trends are like off the wall right now. And some of these trends have been going on for years, and they are just like completely exacerbated, of course, from everybody growing plants now. We all are aware of what's going on with the market. But some of these trends are new and are quite frankly beyond me. Like, I just don't understand it at all. So we're just gonna have some fun and talk some crap about this stuff today because yeah, it's fun. So the first one I want to talk about today is the tried and true. It's the Variegated Monstera deliciosa. And you know what? I would almost lump the Variegated Adansonii into this because that thing is just like, we're not even going to talk about it. But yeah, we're going to talk about ye old Variegated Monstera. And you're probably like, Nick, you have one behind you. I'm aware. I got this in a trade that I did a couple years ago. I actually traded a piece of my Rhaphidophora tetrasperma that I have growing up this trellis for this Variegated Monstera because back in the day this was a lot harder to get your hands on. Even then, when I traded for that plant, the Variegated Monstera was still, you know, worth 3 digits, but nowadays it's a lot more than that. It's, I would say, at minimum $500 for like a decent plant. A lot of people will probably be willing to sell like a single node cutting of their plant for more than $100, but oh, it's just something that I'm like, why? Like, I don't get it. Like, it's a beautiful plant. Like, I look at the plant and I see the modeling and the marbling on it, and it's pretty, and the stem is pretty and stuff like that. But would I pay? This is probably worth like $700 right here, if not more than that. Oh my gosh, it just makes me kind of like, ugh, like I don't even like want to have it in my home. I mean, I'm not gonna get rid of it, so don't ask me, but it just makes me feel like, ugh, like it's just like capitalism on plants, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be some like little like socialist boy, but I feel like it was just the harbinger of everything else going up in price because it's like, if people are willing to pay that much for a plant, how much are they willing to pay for these other plants? So that was really the beginning. Variegated Monstera, as far as I'm aware, like, I'm sure not always, but back when I got into houseplants 6 years ago, it was always a couple $100s to get a nice Variegated Monstera. So that really hasn't changed. It's just gotten, like I said, exacerbated from the trends going on lately. But another one that kind of is lumped in with that is the Philodendron Pink Princess, which once again is also behind me, even though it's just one leaf, because I've chopped this plant to bits for another video that you'll probably be seeing at some point. But I don't understand. Like, I mean, it's a pink plant, which is cool, but like think about how many other pink plants are out there for like $5. Like there's syngoniums and there's phytonias and polka dot plants. They're all pink. They all are like even more pink than the Pink Princess Philodendron, but for some reason just this leaf with pink splashes on it is just like deemed like a holy grail of plants. Like, I don't really understand why. And when I purchased my Pink Princess, I've talked about this many times, it was $8. This was in like 2017, probably back when I first started my YouTube channel. I think it was actually one of the first couple videos I ever did was an unboxing of my Pink Princess Philodendron. But I don't get it. Like, I'm not willing to spend that kind of money on plants. I've never myself spent more than $100 on a plant. I think the most I've ever spent on a plant was $75. And I think that's kind of a lot. And you know, the plants that I spent that much on are like, I think, worth the money, but then it's like you go beyond that and it's just like, I just don't get it. But oh, this is what this video is about, just talking about things I don't understand. So yeah, I think Variegated Monstera and the Pink Princess Philodendron kind of could be lumped together in a sense. They're just the tried and true, and that price tag keeps going up. Like when I first got my hands on them at the plant store when I worked there, I think they were like $35 wholesale, and last time I checked, they're like $45, $50 wholesale, so the price keeps going up. I want everyone to like houseplants. I don't want everyone to get fed up because this huge wave of people is coming in and getting obsessed with houseplants and the price is just going up and up and up, then it's just gonna scare people off is kind of like my worry if we're like getting into the nitty gritty, but a lot of us are true houseplant enthusiasts, and I think we just do it because we love it. I don't really think about it in monetary value, or there's no hierarchy about like having the rarest plant. Like, that doesn't make you like cool or anything. I like what I like. When I first started doing houseplants, there was no houseplant YouTube, there was no houseplant Instagram. Like, I didn't have a way to get influenced about what plants I wanted. Like I would see a plant and I would decide that I liked it and that was my vibe and that's what I wanted in my home. So I feel like a little biased in that sense because that's how I like to pick my plants. And I know a lot of people are like on social media and that's how they decide how they pick their plants, and that's totally okay. But like I said, it just gets blown out of proportion a lot of the times when these trends are just taken like way too seriously, and I hope that people aren't like viewing it as like, you know, if you have a pink princess, you're like in the it club, because that's absolutely not how it is. I think that would be kind of like lame if people viewed it that way. But anyway, we're going off on a tangent, but like I said, that's what I do here on YouTube. Anyway, the next one I want to talk about is the Philodendron Rio. Now, I think this is a very specific sport of, or I know it's a very specific sport of Philodendron Brazil. And you know what, I would almost say like every single Philodendron Brazil cultivar or sport, whatever the word is, would be included in this. I'll try to include like a photo. I think Aaron Apsley does like a photo that shows you like the difference between the different types of those plants. It's something I don't understand. I think it's like if you like have to collect like all the pothos and like the ones that have like just like the most minor differences, it's like, explain it to me. Like, why is one any better than the other? So that's kind of how I feel about the Philodendron Rio and the Philodendron White Stripe and whatever other kind. I know there's like 5, 6 different kinds, and these things go for so expensive, and the Philodendron Brazil is going to cost you like $4 at your local IKEA. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a plant that costs a lot of money, but you add like one little stripe of color in there and people freak out about it. I don't get it at all. I've seen the prices go like scary high. Like you buy cuttings of these plants for $50+ and you wouldn't buy a 4-inch pot of it for like less than $75 or $100. It's scary, and I don't like that. Like what makes it so special that you have to have it? Like I grow sported plants in my home because people found a sport of a plant. You know, I grow like 3 different sports of Peperomia scandens, but you know, it's not a philodendron, so nobody's gonna pay top dollar for that. But I think it's fun, but it's not like you gotta have, it's not Pokemon, you don't have to have them all, you know what I mean? So I don't get it. I'm getting a little confused by it, but that is like the plant that just like blows my mind. Like when people get excited about their Philodendron Rio, and it's like, just buy a white stripe if you really need to have like something that bad. If you need it to not be Brazil, you need to have like the extra oomph. The white stripe one costs like the same price as the Brazil, but I'm sure there's people who like mark it up because they think that it's like worth more, because we don't need to get into it, but I guess that's what this video is about, getting into it. But I want to move on. So the next one I want to talk about is another philodendron. There's a lot of philodendron on my list today. I'm sure you guys were expecting that because, yeah. But I think this is the last philodendron I'm going to talk about today. But Philodendron Florida Ghost. I think what's so ghostly about it is that it never looks like the way people want it to. People are always like, oh my God, my Florida Ghost plant, and it's all green. And like, that's cool. Like, I like green plants. I love Philodendron Florida. I'm looking at mine now and I think it's great. It's a beautiful leaf shape. It's fantastic. But I'm almost convinced that a lot of these people are just buying Philodendron Floridas and calling it a Florida Ghost because they're like either just reverted or I don't get it. I'm not going to put like any particular picture on screen because I'm not going to call anybody out. But yeah, so I'm just feeling some type of way. It's like these plants that people are willing to spend like hundreds of dollars on. A Florida Ghost would not go for less than $100 as far as I'm aware, but my Florida costed me like $12 for a 4-inch pot. I mean, mind you, this was last year in 2019. Things were a little bit different. It might cost you like $30 nowadays, but I'm not trying to dig myself in a hole here. I just think it's unnecessary. It's gimmicky. It's funny that houseplants these days can be gimmicky. I mean, that's another whole video in itself right there. But it's just something I'm not a fan of it. White leaves that turn green. It's amazing. Is it worth a couple $100s to you? Maybe it is. It's not worth a couple $100s to me. And if it's worth a couple $100s to enough people, they're going to pay for it. They're willing to pay for it. It's going to be that way. So that's just the way it's going to stay. So the next one I want to talk about today is the variegated string of pearls. People like variegated plants. People like the variegated string of hearts. That's great. But the variegated string of hearts is at least stable enough. Variegated string of pearls, when I would sell them at the plant store, they'd be in little 2.5-inch pots. I swear there'd be just like 1 strand in there, maybe 2 if you were lucky, and they costed $30, and that was below the markup. They were, I think they were like $12, $11 or $12 wholesale, and then you have to add your shipping onto that. So after that, they ended up being like $13 or $14. So you can do the math. That's a lot of money, even wholesale. I mean, obviously, for a strand of plant, and it's not an easy plant to care for, first of all. You know, string of pearls needs to acclimate to your home, and it's not like the happiest camper at all times, so I could imagine like it dying very quickly and you basically buying $30 garbage. But the thing that gets me is I would visit my growers that, you know, grew the plants when I worked at the plant store, and the one grower who would grow the variegated string of pearls, all of his pots of variegated string of pearls, they were just pots of string of pearls, and they had like 1 or 2 strands of variegated in it left because it reverts. He bought them as full hanging baskets overseas, I believe, that were at one time, you know, fuller of variegated pearls, but the plant just reverts so easily, even in the greenhouse setting, that literally, I swear it was like a full, like as you would see, just like a normal string of pearls pot, but there was just maybe like 4, 5, or 6 strands of variegateds coming down. It was just that much, to the point that I'm not even sure if he still grows it anymore because it was reverting that much. So I could imagine that just being not like an easy plant to cultivate for that reason. And of course, that's why it's going to cost a lot of money too, but it's just pretty ridiculous. And I know people just get so wild about it. When I would get them in stock, they would sell immediately, and if they didn't, they would start to die. So it's just, I was like, I'm not bringing one home with me. I'm not going to bother with it. I'm not going to try. But people did, and it's something that people want. Variegated plants are super hot. They're a bit overrated in my opinion, but they do have their appeal in some. Like, I'm a sucker for the Syngonium albo, I'll admit it. I think it's freaking beautiful, but that's just me, you know? To each their own, of course, but this is just one variegated plant where I'm like, just don't even bother. Like, just don't bother. I would like to talk about the Hoya Polyneura. I feel like Hoyas are incredible houseplants. I love Hoyas. I think they're great, but I've never heard too much good stories about the Hoya Polyneura. One, it's overpriced. It's one of those Hoyas that, once again, costs like over $100, which is just a shame. Hoyas grow so slow, and that's probably why people are getting away with like selling them for so much money. But oh, this one is just, ooh, I've heard that it does not acclimate very well. People would get them and they would just fall apart. They would turn yellow and fall apart. I think that they're very specific with like their soil medium. Maybe it's something that would be easier to grow if it was like in leca or that, you know, a very barky mixture. I really don't know, but yeah, I've never heard anything really good about them. They look sick. They look like chlorotic. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I could see it. I'd find one day that I'd be like, oh, I see it. I understand now. But for $100+ usually for just like one strand, I don't think I'm willing to take that risk. This is one of the plants on this list, however, that have been trendy for a pretty long time. I've noticed them being expensive and popular ever since I started collecting houseplants. It's because of that fishtail look that's just that, you know, when you get a lot of it, it's just dangling look of fishtail. It is quite interesting in that sense, but just because of the bad reputation that they have, at least that I've been hearing, and you know, the way that they just get that sickly look very easily. They don't get that like beautiful like red coloration that a lot of Hoyas get under sun stress. They just kind of get like a yellow chlorotic look, like a chlorotic Rhaphidophora or Monstera Peru. It kind of like grabs me that way, you know what I mean? But in a little bit of a worse way, where I can't look past it. It's one that maybe one day I'd come around to it. I'm sure if I like tried growing it and I had good success, my mind could be changed. I feel like this is the only one on the list where I could be like, one day I could see myself enjoying it. With everything else added up, it's just a no for me. And I'm a really big collector of Hoyas. I love them, but that is one that I do not grow in my home for good reason. But like I said, maybe one day I'll get swayed. But I wouldn't be spending money on it. Let's put it that way, because it's just a little out of proportion. It's a little blown out of proportion, and it's been that way for a while, just like the Variegated Monstera. So I feel like that's one that's just going to continue to go up in price. So yeah, maybe I'll see it in a couple of years. But for now, I'm just gonna, you know, kind of appreciate it from afar. And the last one I want to talk about today is the Ceropegia linearis woodii Silver Glory. I am a huge fan of String of Hearts. You guys know this. Like, String of Hearts is like one of my OG plants. Like, I had that 7-foot String of Hearts that was just like my thing. Like, I took so many pictures of it. If you go back on my Instagram, I swear like every 3 pictures is just my String of Hearts. The variegated String of Hearts, I wouldn't dare call overrated. I love it. It's a plant that I really appreciate. Is it overpriced? 100%, but it's a variegated plant that gets some really nice pink coloration to it. It holds its variegation very nicely for me. I think it's fantastic. But the Silver Glory, I think it's like a joke. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the Silver Glories I've seen, they are just not enticing to me. And it just looks like an exaggerated like string of hearts, like just like with more like modeling to the leaves, and it doesn't even last. Like I feel like it's like the first like two nodes or the like two, three newest nodes you have on the plant are like the silver glory color, and then it just like fades back to the green. It's just kind of disappointing, specifically for one that's going to cost you so much money for such little. Like you can get like a nice full pot of variegated string of hearts at least, but like for the same cost of that is what you would get like a strand or maybe two of silver glory. It's one that got like really popular in like the UK or Europe last year or a year before, and so people were seeing it in America and they just like had to have it. But it's just, I think it's proving not to be a very good houseplant. I don't grow it in my home myself. It's not one that I would be like looking to grow. If someone gave me a cutting, I'd try it, but I think I would just be disappointed from everything I've seen from my growers and my friends growing it. So yeah, but it's not a great contender for houseplants like I was saying. I think that the variegated one, although overpriced, is a great houseplant. I think it's beautiful. It's gonna give you what you want. It's gonna grow fast enough, but I just don't think you're going to get that satisfaction with the silver glory. And there's a ton of other types of the cultivars of Ceropegia woodii. So there's plenty of others. There's like the Orange River, and then there's the string of needles, the linearis, and there's the string of spades or the daggers they call it. There's so many other like great contenders to try out. So I would say just skip the silver glory. It's not worth your money. It's not worth your time. I just think it's a ripoff. It's totally a ripoff. It's a gimmick. It's a ripoff. If you really like looking at your new growth coming in a specific way and then fading back over time, like go for it. But I cannot wholeheartedly recommend a plant like that. I think it's crap. So yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. The most overrated houseplants. There are so many more. This is a video I could absolutely do again with a complete new list of houseplants. So buckle up. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you don't dislike me if I talked about plants that you like, but let's be real, all of these plants are totally overrated, so we can't deny it for a second. So anyway, on that note, thank you guys so much for watching. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram at Philly Foliage, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great day.